The final content video on history around us, Dudley Castle, and this video is going to concentrate on the content within the modern period, which is 1900 to present day. Of our timeline of Dudley Castle, we have the medieval period between 1066 and 1500, where the purpose of the castle is creation and battles. We have the 1500s in the Tudor period, where the purpose of the castle is leisure and luxury. The Stuart period in the 1600s, where the purpose of the castle is war and battle during the English Civil War. 1700 to 1900, which is the industrial period, and the castle is in ruins following the Great Fire of 1750. And finally, we have the content for this video, which is where Dudley Castle transforms its use into a zoo, and this is in the modern period, 1900 to today. So in terms of the purpose of Dudley Castle in the modern period, as much as it still looks like the outline of a romantic ruin, the purpose has now completely changed during the modern period. So Dudley Castle changes its use specifically really in 1937, which is when the zoo is opened as a new business venture, and the aim is obviously to attract tourists and visitors to the attraction. So you can see on the images below you have an older image of Dudley Castle's past, where you can see the elephants in the forefront of the image and the keep in the background, and you can see on the right a much more modern usage of the castle as part of the tourist attraction, which is an open air cinema. So you can see that the castle is now being used in very different ways. So the castle and its courtyard today are the scene of ghost and history walks, which enter into the true spirit of the site. The castle also hosts, as stated, open air cinema nights, children's events and bird of prey displays. So there's lots of things that go on at Dudley Castle today, but its function is one of a tourist attraction. Of turning points in Dudley Castle's history, obviously the main event that you would speak about in the modern period is the zoo being opened in 1937. So it was opened 2 years prior to the start of World War II, and the opening day was a great success, with over 250,000 people recorded as visiting on the opening day. We had 700,000 people who visited in its first year, and now the zoo attracts on average 300,000 visitors. So any of those statistics would be great to use in the exam, and it really shows the popularity of our site locally. We also do have a very significant individual who visits in 1994. So Queen Elizabeth II visited and reopened a part of the castle, and during her 90-minute visit, Her Majesty toured the grounds, unveiled a piece of commemorative glass and received a crystal key to the castle as a gift. She then went on to meet members of the public and listen to a short concert by school children in the courtyard before officially opening the Interpretation Centre, which is still at the zoo today. So Elizabeth's visit certainly helps to raise the profile of Dudley Zoo as a tourist attraction and adds to the castle's national significance. Of the physical features that still remain, remember we need physical features in every single paragraph that you write for your History Around Us exam. The best ones to speak about are the concrete structures that are in Dudley Zoo that were completed in 1937. The reason for this really is because they are known as tecton buildings, again in purple because it's a physical feature that you can speak about, and they're the only ones left in Britain. So tecton buildings are a type of architecture led by famous architect Lubetkin, and the design represents Britain moving into a modern age, but it still allows the buildings to blend in with the environment that they are placed in. So the examples that you can see are the old zoo opening, which I'm just highlighting now for you on the screen, which I'm sure lots of you recognise, and this building here, which at one point used to house the elephants. Dudley Zoo doesn't have elephants anymore, but these buildings still remain. So they are physical features that you could discuss and just really showcase the fact that you know that Dudley was at the forefront of some quite unique forms of architecture. You could also speak about the moat, which I know lots of you have done in exam questions that you've practiced in class, which now houses the sea lions, which again you can see in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. And finally, we have still got the ruins of the castle. So from the fire in the industrial period, such as the keep, the gatehouse, etc., they are still visible for tourists to explore. You can climb right to the top of the keep as part of the castle being opened to the public, and parts of the ruins of the Sharrington Range are actually used to house castle creatures, which is a feature that includes bats and creepy crawlies. So again, the physical remains that remain are now being used in a very different way, but they could easily be explained within the exam if you were describing the modern period. So in terms of the types of people who were at the castle during the modern period and what types of attitudes and values we can see there, we have tourists and visitors being the main groups. You could of course speak about school children, for example, who visit the castle to find out about its past, but also visiting the zoo to find out about the animals. We've got employees at the castle, so zookeepers, shop assistants. Obviously historians are also there at certain times to discuss the past of the castle itself with visiting groups. And we have significant visitors such as Elizabeth II. In terms of attitudes and values, you've got enjoyment, entertainment, recreation, leisure, tourism, and huge economic importance for the local area as well. Typicality, just a reminder that we are comparing Dudley Castle to Shrewsbury Castle and to Kenilworth Castle. And overall, Dudley is typical during the modern period, as many castles throughout England are kept open as places to visit as tourist attractions. Many of them are owned by companies such as English Heritage, who aim to preserve the past of the buildings that they take over. So in 1924, Shrewsbury Castle was purchased by the Shropshire Horticultural Society, and they decided to restore the castle as much as possible, which included removing many of the changes introduced during the industrial time period. Further changes took place in 1985 when the castle was converted to house the Shropshire Regimental Museum. English Heritage has managed Kenilworth Castle since 1984, and the Grade 1 listed castle ruins are open to visitors, and the castle is extremely popular with tourists. Between 2005 and 2009, Kenilworth's gardens were reconstructed to try and look how they did during Queen Elizabeth I's reign. The reconstruction for this cost more than £2 million, so a huge amount being spent. Overall, both Shrewsbury and Kenilworth aim to attract tourists just the same as Dudley do in the modern period. Although money has been spent on restoring Shrewsbury's interior, which is different to Dudley, and money at Kenilworth has been spent on restoring the grounds to the standard of Elizabethan times, the purpose of all three is the same, and that is to attract as many tourists as possible to raise money for the local economy, making Dudley Castle very typical of castles during the modern period. So in terms of local and national significance, from a national perspective, Queen Elizabeth II's visit in 1994 really raised the profile of Dudley Zoo, and it encouraged tourists to visit the castle from all around the world, learning about the castle's past and learning about the animals that are now in the castle grounds. And in terms of local significance, Dudley Zoo contributes hugely to the local economy. It employs local people, lots of visitors constantly take part in visits to the area, and they spend money when they are there. That could be through buying food in the cafes on site, it could be through staying in hotels locally when they visit. So this is generating a lot of income for the local economy. And local people are very proud of the history of the castle. This zoo often is linked with other local attractions such as the Black Country Living Museum, which again lots of you have probably visited. So that concludes the video for the modern period and Dudley Castle, and it concludes the series of videos that are on the content for History Around Us Dudley Castle. So I hope that they have been helpful for you.